In the middle of the 20th century, the American South was a deeply segregated society. Schools, buses, restaurants, movie theaters, and public spaces were divided between whites and African Americans. African Americans were subjected to harassment and violence, including lynchings. Despite many obstacles, African Americans fought for better conditions and equal rights as citizens. In 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, civil rights activist Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white man on a bus. She was arrested, and a boycott of buses began. The person designated to lead the campaign was a young pastor named Martin Luther King Jr. The bus boycott became the opening salvo for a movement that spread across the United States. King became a leading figure in the fight for freedom and justice. Through his I Have a Dream speech at the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, the message spread across the world. In 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent struggle for African American rights. A few months after receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, King was in Selma, Alabama, where he played a leading role in a campaign for equal voting rights for African Americans. There he met a young civil rights activist, Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, where he participated in protests against segregation in 1960 as a college student. King was impressed by Jackson's energy and organizational skills. Jackson was given an important role in the activities King and his organization wanted to carry out in Chicago. Operation Breadbasket, which Jackson led, promoted greater opportunities for African Americans in the labor market and strengthening African American businesses. Jesse Jackson was one of the colleagues accompanying Martin Luther King Jr. when King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968. After King's death, Jackson continued King's unfinished project for economic justice, the Poor People's Campaign. During the 1970s, Jackson continued to promote African Americans' economic opportunities. He also became more deeply involved in politics, and in 1984 and 1988, he ran unsuccessfully to become the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Jesse Jackson has also been active at the international level, including as a negotiator. He is still an active advocate for peace, freedom, and justice at the national and international levels.